All right, so here's my long-term review of the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. I've been using it for over a month right now, so let's jump right into this thing. And first with the design, I like it. Now, it is kind of adopting the design from the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra that came out a couple of years ago, and that means that it does have this more boxier look to it. It's a boxy phone, which looks good, but I really do kind of prefer the rounded design of the S21 Ultra from last year. I just like the way it looks and feels in my hand, but this is one of those things that's not going to stop me from recommending the phone, but just a personal preference. Now, one thing I really do like about this phone design is definitely the color options that you do have. Now, the base colors for this phone include the burgundy color like I have here, but also it comes in green, phantom white, and phantom black. But if you want more color options, Samsung.com does have some exclusive colors that do look really nice, and they really round up a great color selection for this phone, but they're going to take a little bit longer to ship from the website. But if you want those options, you have them. And so overall, I like the design of this phone, but there's one thing that is a negative, and that is dealing with the rear-facing cameras because you don't really have a module this year, so the individual pieces of the camera poke out from the back of the phone, and that means when you do place this phone on a desk or something, you will find it starting to wobble here at the bottom, where on the S21 Ultra, it didn't wobble on the bottom. Of course, as you go up a little bit, it will wobble, but yeah, you will find that difference here, and that might be annoying to you. But if you use a case on your phone like I do, that will remedy this issue, but yeah, it might bother some people. And since we already have both of these phones right here, let's go ahead and talk about the displays. So the S22 Ultra has a 6.8-inch display, which is the same size on the S21 Ultra, but there are two key differences here. One is that it is going to be a brighter display by about a couple hundred nits. So that means that if you are out in bright sunlight and you turn that brightness all the way up, it's going to be a little bit better from the S21 Ultra. It's not like a huge difference, but if it's been a few years since you've upgraded your phone, you will notice the brightness difference with this S22 Ultra. And then also, as far as the refresh rates, both of these phones can get up to 120 hertz, but on the S21 Ultra, it could only get down to 10 hertz, but the S22 Ultra can go down to 1 hertz. And this is important because that means the S22 Ultra is not going to be draining as much battery with the display, because if you are doing things that don't need that higher refresh rate, it can bump down all the way down to 1 hertz, and that will help the battery last even longer. And yeah, as I say every single year, the Galaxy series of phone usually have one of the best displays on the market, and that's the same thing here. Watching videos, playing games are amazing on it, and it's kind of curious that they didn't go with an under display front-facing camera that kind of disappears like the one on the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3. Whether that's because they wanted to maintain the quality from the front-facing camera or production issues, I don't exactly know, but I'll rather have better quality with the front-facing camera than have it kind of be invisible. So if that's the case, then I'm happy that they made that decision. And so this phone does have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery inside of it, just like the S21 Ultra, and I found the performance to be the same. I can get all-day battery life. By the end of the day, typically I may be around like 10% or so that's good for me because I do use this phone a lot. And also when it comes to charging, this phone does support 45-watt wired charging, but you do have 15-watt wireless charging, and you still have reverse wireless charging, so you can place a pair of wireless earbuds that do have a wireless charging case or another phone on the back of this phone and give that a charge. And right now I'm showing you the core specs of this phone, with the highlights being the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 CPU inside of it. And also you do have a maximum of 1 terabyte of storage that you can get this phone with, and you still don't have a micro SD card slot, but you can go all the way up to 1 terabyte. And as far as the RAM, it actually, the starting RAM this year is lower than it was with the S21 Ultra. So it starts at 8 gigabytes of RAM and tops off at 12 gigabytes of RAM. And that's different from the S21 Ultra that started at 12 gigabytes of RAM and topped off at 16 gigabytes of RAM. But even with that, generally the performance of this phone has been pretty stellar for me. Not a lot of issues. One issue that I did have was with the camera app being a little bit slow to launch and also allow me to get in and take a photo and stuff. But actually at the time of this video, like literally 30 minutes before, I checked to see if it did have a software update, and it did. And I downloaded that, updated, and I installed it, and it definitely fixed that issue that I had. So it's kind of good for me to wait 30 days to do this review. But with that issue fixed, this software is screaming on it. And this phone does come with Android 12 already installed with One UI running on top of that. And of course, with One UI, we have a lot of unique features like Samsung Dex, which actually Michael Fisher, another great tech YouTuber, did a full in-depth review of Samsung Dex, and I definitely recommend checking that out. I'll leave that link down below in the description. But yeah, software is great. You're not gonna have any problems with it. I think so far this is the best version of One UI that Samsung has done, and it runs really well. And oh, I can't believe I waited this late to talk about the biggest hardware change this year for this phone, and that's going to be the S Pen. And the S Pen lives right inside of the phone like it used to do on the Note series of phones. And so the S21 Ultra last year gained S Pen support, but it didn't have any way for you to store the S Pen inside of the phone, so you had to like buy a case and put it in the particular spot on that case if you wanted to always have it with you. But it is so clutch to be able to have this S Pen just being able to be pulled out of this phone like this. And it's one of those features that I still don't use all the time. I maybe use it just a few times a year, but I had to use it recently to sign a contract when I was waiting in the office for my LASIK appointment, and it was just so clutch to be able to pull this out and actually make a real signature instead of just using my finger, which always sucks. And Samsung says they have like decreased the latency with this, so it's going to be more accurate and be able to respond to you faster, but I don't do a lot of things where I can really tell you whether that is true or not, but I take their word on it. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to be buying this phone for the S Pen, but the fact that this phone does have the S Pen is going to be one more little thing to help separate it from every other smartphone on the market. But now for my favorite part of any smartphone review, and that's when we talk about the camera, so let's do that. So with this S22 Ultra, you have a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, 108 megapixel main wide angle camera, and then also you have two telephoto cameras both coming in at 10 megapixels, with one being 3 times optical zoom and the other being 10 times optical zoom. And just being honest with you, I don't want to go over all of the technical jargon that Samsung used to describe why these cameras are better this year. Honestly, you can go read that somewhere else. But I'm just going to be mostly just showing you a bunch of photos and videos that I've taken with this phone so you can really see how it performs. And I'm taking these photos and videos in all different types of lighting situations. And the general theme for the improvements this year is that Samsung wanted this camera system to be better in all types of lighting conditions. Now, of course, outside with plenty of sunlight, you can see these photos really do look great. But I really like the color profile that Samsung does use for their photos. They're not as punchy as they used to be back in the day, but I feel like they really do pop. But when you start to turn the lights down or you're taking photos outside at night, this phone is excellent. So I think it has what they call their nitrography, but basically when you're taking low light photos, this thing is going to be able to draw in a lot of light, but still keep the picture sharp and clear. And this picture right here is one of my favorite photos that I've taken with the smartphone. So this is using portrait night mode, and you can see it looks like I had a decent amount of light there, but it was actually pretty dark when I took this photo. And one thing you will see in this side-by-side comparison with the iPhone 13 Pro is that you see this little green glob on the iPhone's picture. That happens a lot with lens flare and things, but on this S22 Ultra, Samsung has added the super clear lens and glass on the rear-facing camera, so basically that's going to help eliminate this from happening on the S22 Ultra's photos. So no matter which one you personally like as far as the general photo, the one thing I think universally we can all agree is that these little green globs definitely do suck. And even when you have plenty of light, portrait mode has gotten better this year because this phone does use this AI stereo depth map functionality that allows it to really be able to cut you out from the background, so edge detection is a lot better. And I've seen examples where, look, I don't have a lot of hair on my head, but I've seen examples where fine little pieces of hair were able to be recognized by this camera system, and that really does add to the effect of portrait mode. And I have to say, because of this has the best edge detection that I've used on a smartphone. Oh, and then Space Zoom is back this year, and Samsung has made it better. So you can see this side-by-side example with the S21 Ultra, where when you get up to around like 30 times zoom and higher, you can see a little bit more details and refinement to the photos. So that is a good thing. But even when you compare this to another phone like the iPhone 13 Pro, phones that don't really boast about having, you know, big telephoto zoom there, but you can just really see when you can get to that 30 times zoom and higher that the S22 Ultra just really blows everything out of the water. So I like the fact that they're not trying to add like 150 times space zoom and just really go for the numbers, but Samsung is keeping it at 100 times zoom, but just trying to refine it every single year. And I think in a couple of years, this is going to be something that where you can get up to like 50 times zoom and you're not going to see the quality of the photo degrade that much. But yeah, 30 times zoom is still the sweet spot, where 100 times zoom is still just getting into that creeper mode there. But yeah, I'm still really liking space zoom. And when it comes to video, you still can record 4K video up to 60 frames per second. And then also super steady mode is better this year. So if you like moving around, maybe chasing your kids around with this phone, the video is going to be steadier this year. And then also you still have 8K recording at 24 frames per second. I would also like to see that bumped up to 30 frames per second, but 8K 24 still looks good if you do need to use it. But yeah, video capabilities on this phone are really excellent. And this next feature I talked about in my S21 Ultra review last year. A lot of people didn't cover it, but this is the object eraser tool that you have. So after you take a photo, you can tap on an object and remove it from that. But this goes a step further compared to things like the Google Pixel 6 Pro, where you can also remove reflections or even shadows from photos. So this is always kind of fun to play around with. But I think just with everything, with the photos and videos with this S22 Ultra, this makes it the best complete all-around camera system on a smartphone right now, because you have these great cameras on the back, you have that 40 megapixel front-facing camera, and you just have all of these different tools that you don't find on all these other smartphones. And you even have this Expert RAW app that you can download for this S22 Ultra, which is going to allow you to get a lot of advanced controls when you're taking photos with this. And then also you can export raw photos from that app to a Lightroom app, for example. And the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner is back this year. No real big changes to it, but it still performs really well. You have a nice surface area there and will work if your fingers are greasy or wet. All right, so final thoughts about this S22 Ultra. It's the best all-around smartphone right now. When you think about Samsung DeX, the S Pen, the cameras, the display, the battery life, all these little things really add up to a phone that does some things that you don't find anywhere else. And it just really kind of checks a lot of boxes out there. It might not be the best in a couple of those different categories, but it's good enough to where combined, I mean, this thing is just a solid phone that I really can take in almost any situation. And it's just really awesome to see the Galaxy Note series still have some life, even though we might not ever see another Galaxy Note phone. But it's good to see that S Pen support inside of this phone to help bring over that legendary series from the Galaxy Note series. But yeah, for $1199, the starting price point for this S22 Ultra, it's kind of hard to find another phone that can do as much. So this is my review. I'm really liking it. What do you think? Leave your comment down below. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, and like this video if you did like it. But like always, I do want to thank you for watching this, and I will catch you later. Peace.